Hello, good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Can you see me? Oh,
How was your new year?
okay, it's good. Celebration and just normal celebration and just enjoy just another day.
Yeah.
What about you?
Just another day, really.
Okay.
Yeah, just another day. Did some work around the house and yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. But how's things in New Zealand in the new year?
It's still chillier than
Okay.
in Singapore. So I think today we had a high of 26,
Okay.
but the low will be around 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a bit chilly at times.
Okay. But I don't know. I feel that maybe in New Year in the overseas will be different in Singapore probably. I mean,
Well, I'm in a kind of a small town, so the New Year was a lot of people putting off their own fireworks. So it's a bit loud.
okay.
Not as loud as India when I was there for Deepavali. But yeah, it's and unfortunately a little low key because they're trying to keep everybody from gathering, right?
Sure.
So there was no like official fireworks.
Okay.
A bunch of like little fireworks. And I think because of there was a group of people that were under lockdown here. So Auckland was under lockdown for quite some time. I think it was just a way for them to let off steam.
Okay.
So yeah, so there was quite a bit of activity in that space. So but yeah, for me, I was just, it's another day. I got up the next day and went for a big run and
Yeah. Let's see. But in Singapore, the New Year itself, that's not. I mean, now approaching Chinese New Year, you can see certain decoration, but I would say just that because of the COVID situation itself, it's just like, oh yeah, it's a bit decoration. Just that this looks like New Year, but because not much celebration because all under control,
right.
Where I go to Chinatown, actually I go to Chinatown to get something for my work, but in the end, a lot of shops can't put the display because yeah.
Hi Amanda, how are you?
Hi Amanda.
Afternoon, good night, good evening.
Evening.
Hi Darren.
Hi. What time now is it?
It's 11 p.m. here.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So this is my my effort to sort of reconnect with the NLP community after so long. So I figured that I might as well try to at least do it according to Singapore time. So it would be really nice if like come March or April when I'm back in Singapore, if we could just have like a something that would be live and in person. That would be sort of novel and cool, but who knows with Omicron and what it's going to do. So
let's see how things go.
Yes. It's a bit crazy. So Amanda, how are you?
We're supposed to be courteous but I feel shitty today. I had cranial therapy yesterday because
we lost your audio, Amanda.
Okay. Yeah, so I had craniosacral therapy yesterday morning by Kathy Gabriel because I thought after my third jab, the jab was okay, Sinovac also, again, but it's been, and she said that she could feel that I've got a lot of sphenoid disturbance over here, and she suspected but my grinding my jaws or grinding my teeth. I said, that's true, I broke a tooth, and then even after the capping, there's another thing. Then so she said, okay, maybe take 2-3 days, but I mean, 2-3 weeks, maybe see her again. I said, oh, okay. But today she expects me to feel super tired, and I am. It's like, oh,
yes, self-fulfilling beliefs. We love
no,
that.
no, really.
Well, I didn't it's not helpful. We would love doctors to use NLP skills where we say you may or may not feel tired tomorrow. Whether you feel tired or not feel tired, it means that you're getting better that much faster. So we'd love them to actually learn some NLP skills of influencing suggestions, but never mind. I can only hope. Hi, Cecile.
Hello.
All right.
How are you?
I am doing very well. How are you?
Very well. Nice to see you all.
So Cecile, you might not have heard, but current schedule is to be back in Singapore at the end of March. So,
I've heard because I saw the training.
Okay, so
like, oops.
So I will definitely, irrespective of training, blah blah blah. I will definitely catch up with you when I'm back.
Beautiful. Can't wait.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Well, we are officially at time. We have over a dozen people registered. I don't know if they're doing just the recording or not. I know there's a couple of people that have registered who aren't even awake right now. So that's probably them doing the recording. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. We are on recording for those people. So, and if you do have any questions or anything as I'm going along, just feel free to pop in with those questions at any point in time. So Joe is just joining us now. Just again, if anybody has any questions, would like to say anything, just go ahead and unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask those questions. So let's get started. So the life changes with neuro-linguistic programming. So, oh, wow, we have more people coming. What would be really fantastic if everybody could do during this presentation is that if you had a piece of paper and something to write with, because there's later on we're going to do a bit of an exercise, and it's an exercise that you might choose to even explore after this is over. And so there's some things that I'm going to give you information about that, but it's closer to the end as normal. So that's just the little pre-warning for anybody who would like to get a piece of paper and a pencil. And again, for those of you who just joined me, if you have any questions during the presentation, just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can just ask them as we go along. Cool. All right, let's get started. Now, the question here is why life changes? Why do we want to change in the first place? Why are we looking at this? Well, obviously it's the first part of the year, and most people look at their lives and their New Year's resolutions at this time of year. And so what we were wanting to do is understanding that by nature, we are not stagnant, right? So we are in sort of this constant place of change and development, just like nature is. A tree will continue to grow. It doesn't just, once it gets to a certain point, it just doesn't stop, it continues. And just like the seas and oceans, they continue to flow. There's a tide, there's an element to it that is constantly changing, developing, moving and changing as it goes along. And even a rock, we think of rocks as just something that just sits there and doesn't do much and doesn't change much. And really it actually does, because over time, erosion occurs through wind or water, or just a matter of, just like the other day in Brazil, when an entire rock just fell off the side of the mountain. And so this is what happens in nature, and we are just like nature. We grow and we change and we develop, and we want to be able to be like that. So just welcome to everyone. If we can put everybody on mute.
You are the queen. Nice.
Could put yourself on mute, that would be awesome. Cool. So that's why we really want to explore this change process, because it's natural. It's a natural part for us to be able to go ahead and do. And so we want to be able to go ahead and do that as easily as possible. Now, sometimes we are wanting to instigate that change for ourselves. So sometimes we are at that point in time in our lives where we want to have something that moves and develops and grows or improves in our lives. Now, at other times, though, it's somebody else or something else outside of us who wants us to change. So sometimes that's an external force that's coming at us. And sometimes people are really good at changing. You know, sometimes they're actually so good at it, they lose who they are because they're not actually quite sure how many times they've changed and how many times that change is for themselves versus changing for an external environment. Okay, so we want to be able to understand all of those aspects of change. And the best way for us to do this, of course, is to start at the very beginning. So we want to be able to start with what exactly is change. That's the easiest place for us to start exploring. We might have been trying to change things in our lives, and we might have not had success in the past. And we want to be able to have success in the future. So we need to understand this element of change for us. And so we want to also be able to be aware that what changes that we actually want to make. Because to be able to change, we need to understand that change is all about growing or modifying or reversing or taking a different position, or being something radically different, or just simple modification. So there are many aspects to what really change is, but it's obviously something different than what we are doing currently. And that's really important to know. And the thing about it is that once we understand what change is, it doesn't really help us because we haven't gotten to the point of how you do it yet. This also, a definition of change doesn't help us because of the fact that there are many different types of change. So let's explore some of these different types of change and give some examples to them so that you have a clear understanding of what kind of change you might be looking for in your life, or perhaps the type of change that you have tried in the past, and maybe that type of change hasn't worked for you. All right. So these are the different kinds of change that we can experience. Now, I'm going to start actually at the bottom, because the bottom is the most simplest type of change that we can do. And this is called a remedial change. And what that basically means is that we're just fixing something. That's all that it is. We're just fixing something. And something's broken, we fix it. There's nothing more or less about it than that. Now, from a coaching perspective, if I'm working with somebody on this type of change, it might sound like, you know, somebody has a strategy that they're using, and it's a strategy to buy shoes. And the strategy is broken in some way because when they look at their closet, they realize that they have a lot of shoes that look very similar to each other. In fact, some of them are exactly alike. And so they have purchased shoes multiple times of the same exact brand or exact style. And so that is a problem for them. So to make a remedial change is just to fix that one element of their life. And so we have a process in NLP, we do that process with that person, and that changes the way their strategy runs. So we actually insert something else into their strategy, like while they're looking at shoes in a shoe shop, because there's a sale, they actually stop and they think to themselves and picture their entire shoe collection. And once they picture that, they're looking for a shoe that's similar to the shoe that they're trying on right then, or the exact pair. And once they find that in a closet, they realize they already have that shoe. They've made a good purchase in the past and they don't need to make that purchase again. And so just this very small bit of change can help this person change their life. But it's a very remedial change. It's something just small. We just fix something very tiny, right? So there's nothing really earth-shattering about remedial change. Now, we move up one element here to incremental change. And so incremental change is what most people are doing these days. So incremental change is this constant and never-ending improvement kind of change. So it's like taking little baby steps to get someplace different. You know, so you're just making a little bit small of adjustment, but instead of just doing it once, you're doing it multiple times. So it's more of a constant set of incremental changes. So if we take another example, say like me doing yoga. So if I get down on the floor and I practice my yoga, then the next time I practice my yoga, an incremental change would be me attempting to go a bit further into the pose than I had before. And then the next time I'm doing yoga, I'm again trying that same pose and again attempting to go a bit further than I have gone before. So each time I'm doing that pose, each time I'm practicing my set of yoga, what I'm actually ending up doing is having these incremental changes. So you know about these kinds of things when people are doing things like 60-day challenges or 30-day challenges, where you're basically changing things over a period of time. So this might be even a 2-month or 3-month change that you're doing, like a new diet program or something like that. And so there's incremental changes. You stop eating junk food, you stop eating white flour food, you stop eating sugar, these kinds of things. Every week there might be a different kind of change that you make, all incremental changes. Now, this is a really great way of progressing and changing through life. There's nothing wrong with this kind of thing. So I call it the foot in the door technique. So you get your foot in the door and you just keep inching the door open slowly and slowly and slowly. So you can think of it as baby steps. You can think of it as how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. These are all kinds of statements or sayings that we would have around this idea of incremental change. Okay. Now, the thing about it is, though, you can actually go further than that. And this is when we call generative change, which basically means that we are generating new responses and new skills. So we're not staying as we were before, making these small progressions. We are actually acquiring new skill sets and new things that weren't before. So in yoga, when I'm doing a pose, I have that skill set already. Stretching that pose just a little longer is just having that ability to extend a skill that I already had. But when we're talking about generative change, it's a skill you didn't have before, right? So it's actually bringing something into your life and then developing that skill over time. Now, with generative change, we are allowing ourselves to dream new possibilities. This is the part of us that reaches for something that is outside of our comfort zone. We are asking ourselves to take a risk, to go out and to put ourselves on the line for this change. So it's something that is going to be outside of our particular status quo or a particular norm. We might be changing behaviors, we might be changing skills or strategies, all during this generative change. Now, this would be like when a Grab driver comes to an NLP course and becomes a coach, right? So when they were a Grab driver, they didn't have this skill of coaching. And so when they come and they learn those skills and they develop those skills and now they're a coach, this is what we would refer to as a generative change. Okay. So this person, this Grab driver, she dreams a dream of having a different life, and she goes out, she gets those new skill sets, and she becomes the new skill set. She becomes a coach. And then she starts also responding to life in a different way because of this new skill set. Okay. Now we can take that even further, and we can go up to this thing that we call evolutionary change. Now, evolutionary change has solely to do with our identity and who we are. So it means that we are actually becoming a new person. So this is a very deep neurological change. So for those of you who have taken NLP before, it's one of the highest levels of our neurological system. So this evolutionary change is when we are focused on becoming someone completely different than who we are now. This level of change is, as I said, geared to identity. And it would be like that Grab driver that I was talking about before that became a coach. And then she now identifies herself not from the old stories that she used to tell people about who she was as a person, but now she has a new identity of who she is, right? And so it's like literally shedding a skin, right? So it is that thing where you are literally becoming something very new. Now, this kind of evolutionary change happened for me when I got to a point where I was changing who I was when I started going from a career as in hospitality in the hotel industry to something that was more along the lines of helping other people to understand how their brain worked and to be able to become better in their own world. And so that is my sort of evolutionary change. Now, of course, we can also have something that's even more radical than that, which is our revolutionary change. Now, this, of course, happens at the highest level of our neurological system, which if you're an NLP person, you know is the greater whole, or what we also refer to as a purpose or a mission. And so when we're at a revolutionary change, we're looking at change that is very confronting. So it is not just changing our who we are as a person. That does happen, but we're literally changing what our mission in life is. So me going from hospitality career to helping people in NLP, that's kind of like an evolution. But the revolution actually was when I kind of changed exactly like how I actually lived my life from a eating perspective, and then started not only changing how I ate, but how I fed other people. And because that I was doing that actually was a revolution for me because of the fact that it had to do with my mission and my purpose, which was to nourish myself and others, both mentally and physically. And so that to me was this revolutionary change. It was completely different than who I was before NLP, before I learned anything about health and nutrition and things like this. So you've also heard about people who have done revolutionary changes. So typically the story goes, Wall Street guy finds it tiring to be in Wall Street or whatever it is, and then decides to leave and become a monk. Right. And so he goes off and he's in Thailand or he's in Tibet or he's in whatever, and he spends multiple years of his life studying with monks and learning, and then brings that evolutionary change back to create a revolution. And so this is the person who comes back and then starts to revolutionize how people do things. So that might be from a giving back perspective, like they decide that, you know, they're going to end poverty, or they are going to teach the world through an app how to meditate. So these are the kinds of revolutionary changes that occur that you often hear in stories of how people have like dramatically turned their lives upside down. And so this revolution is truly a transformation, becoming something not only from a personal perspective, something completely different, an identity perspective, but literally changing the course of your life and potentially the course of a lot of other people's lives as well. So that is our understanding of our revolutionary changes. And what we need to kind of understand now is the programs that go along with those changes. Now, there is one problem though. So one enduring characteristic of change is our ambivalence to going about it. And so we know that we want to change, and yet we hesitate. We might even have a hesitation to fear or to change, but we also might have a fear to change. And so it's important to understand what that's about. So understanding a change and our need for it, we begin to understand, but not necessarily make the changes that we need to do. Ultimately, what we're looking at is it really matters how you feel about the change. It matters what your meaning to the change is, what your belief systems to the change is, what your interpretations about change are. So these are all very important aspects of what it is for us and what it means for us to change. So we're going to look at multiple different little perspectives of NLP with regards to change, and specifically what order that they go in, because it's really important. And to do that, we have to look at these programs. Now, here we go. So when we're looking at programs, we are going to start looking tonight at just one of the several programs that we need to look at to produce life changes. And what we want to do is we want to first look at a program that is about our mental program that is about our motivation, because that's the first way that we're going to conquer us changing, because we have to be motivated to change. Now, for some of you, though, you already know what I mean by mental programs. And for some of you, you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. So a very quick review for those of you who might not have a clear understanding about what mental programs are and what we're talking about from a Neuro Linguistic Programming perspective about them. So really quick, we have information that's coming into our mind. It comes into our mind through visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory senses. So our what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, and what we smell and then taste, sorry, smell and then taste. And then we bring that information in through our five senses into our brain. And there's millions and, well, actually billions of bits of information. And our brain only has the ability to process about 200 to, well, 60 to 200,000 or 60 to 200 million bits of information at a time. And so what's interesting about it is what happens to the rest of the bits. And this is where our brain and our programming comes in, because your brain distorts and deletes and generalizes information in a specific way that your brain does very uniquely and very differently than all other people's brains. And so this is what we are referring to as our programming. So once it deletes and distorts and generalizes things in a specific way, it then turns it into what we would refer to as an internal representation. Another way of saying that is like a picture on the screen of your mind. So if I say something like, don't think of a dog, and then I ask you what color dog you just didn't think of, that dog appears on the screen of your mind. And it could be a fluffy dog, it could be a cartoon dog, it could be a two-dimensional dog that you've drawn sometime in your life, it could be your pet. I don't know, but it would typically come up into the screen of your mind. And then once we have that internal representation or that image in the screen of our mind, it produces a state and a behavior. So our state, of course, is our way of being at any given time. And so some people might call that a mindset or an attitude. So state also, what it is a thought process, emotions, and our physiology, how we're standing, how we're moving, those kinds of things, which then produces a behavior. Now, the thing about it is this happens like this, right? Super fast. And your programs lead you into a behavior. And so when we're trying to make change about a behavior, or perhaps maybe even just about a mindset, we need to understand what program was the thing that started the whole system. Right? So that's really important. So if anybody has any questions about that kind of stuff, please let me know. And I will certainly answer anything about where our mental programs come from. So then there is a very specific way that our brain obviously is going to motivate us. Now, what we're wanting to do is to make sure that when we don't complicate it too much, of course, because when we're running different types of programs simultaneously, as we do, we are running different types of motivational programs for different contexts or different environments. So you might have a motivational strategy or a motivational program for one context of your life, like work, and a different context of your life, like your health or fitness, right? So what we're going to do is just keep it very basic at this point in time so that we can explore what motivation is all about and how we are going to be able to create a generative change or an evolutionary change or a revolutionary change in our lives using our understanding of these kinds of mental programs. Cool. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is introduce the first one. So the first one is about motivation, as we've talked about. And we want to be able to explore this about two ways that you can go in motivation. And what this basically means is that some of us are motivated by going away from something that's painful. So for example, somebody who might be in debt, so they're getting away from debt. So they're trying to motivate themselves to earn more money or get a promotion or do whatever they're doing because they don't want to be in debt anymore. And so they're trying to get away from that thing. So they're going to move away from that debt. Now, some of us might be having issues with our weight. And so we're trying to get away from being unhealthy or being overweight. And so we're trying to get away from that. And that is what is motivating us or driving us, is because that's a pain that we have in our lives. And for some of us, it might be bad bosses or terrible relationships that we're in. And we're motivated to act because of this pain that we're under. All right. So that is the away from motivation. Now, whatever it is, if you are this kind of, this is the way your brain typically functions, whatever it is, the more pain that we perceive, the more likely we are going to change. So, which also means that the pain isn't big enough, then we are probably not going to change at all. So if that's the kind of way that our brain has been programmed to be motivated from away froms, okay? Now, there's obviously the other side of the coin. So for others of us, we are motivated towards something. It's towards something that we want to achieve, something that we want. We are pulled to it. We are drawn to it. Now, this might be a $1 million lifestyle. You know, we watch television, we see all these people who have, you know, jets and boats and things like that. And we're just drawn to acquire that in our life. That's what we want. It might be gorgeous fashion with like a model thin body. And so that's what we're trying to get to, that, and we're going towards that. It also might be something like a healthy, fit, and active lifestyle. So we want to climb mountains. We want to go sailing. We want to water ski. We want to, you know, do all of these outdoor activities that obviously requires lots of health. And so we want to be drawn towards those things. Now, it also could be something like love and a respectful relationship. And we're drawn towards making that happen in our lives. And so those are all examples of toward kinds of motivation. So what we are doing is we're dreaming something. We have a dream in our mind, and whatever it is, we are definitely going to get to that dream. Right? So we're really motivated to acquire it, and it just drives us. Now, you've heard of people like this. So I don't know if anybody knows, like, you know, Elon Musk or, you know, somebody like this who, you know, he is obsessed. He is absolutely driven to get people on Mars. And he's literally blinders on, he's going, right? And that is his toward motivation. And now, at the same time, if you know a little bit about Elon Musk, and the reason why he started this was because of the fact that he truly believed that we were going to really screw up this planet, and we weren't going to be able to live here. And if that is literally the motivation why he wants to go and populate Mars, it's then an away from, right? So if he's trying to get away from the entire Earth being completely uninhabitable, and that's why he wants to populate Mars, then it's an away from. But if he really wants Mars exploration, and he wants to go towards something that is not related to the Earth, you know, not being inhabitable, but it's really about him as an explorer, then it really is just a toward motivation. All right, now we really kind of need to know which is it for us. Now, of course, in NLP, there is no such thing as black or white. We don't have one or the other. We have little bits of both. It depends, of course, on the context. And sometimes the context means that we are highly away from and a little bit toward. Sometimes the context might mean that we're a little bit or highly toward and a little bit away from. And sometimes we might meet in the middle. The thing about it, though, is that we need to figure out what it is for the thing that we really want to change. Because without understanding our own way of doing it, then we're probably sabotaging ourselves left, right, and center. And that's why we actually can't produce the change that we're trying to produce. Cool. Now, this is where we would need that pen or pencil and piece of paper that I had asked you to bring out at the beginning of this presentation. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do an exercise that is going to talk about something that you want to change in your life, and what questions that we would ask you if I was coaching you myself, and have you explore those kinds of things so that you can understand which of the two motivations you have. Is it more towards or more away from for this particular context? And by answering the questions, you can probably figure out that pretty darn quickly. All right, so let's look at the exercise. So if everybody has their piece of paper and pen or pencil out. All right, so here are our questions. So we look at this and we say, okay, if we are more away from, then we're going, and we don't know at this stage, so we're going to just answer both sets of questions, and we're going to find out pretty soon. So what have you had enough of? So if you think about something that you want to change in your life, what have you had enough of? And so if I think about something like my Japanese, so I'm studying Japanese right now. And so what have I had enough of? I've had enough of like thinking about how slow I am at coming up with trying to find words or trying to find things to say. Or to sort of translate things and getting stuck on the same thing over and over. I'm really sick and tired of that. What else have I had enough of? I've had enough of sort of making stupid excuses to myself about why I haven't done a study for a particular day. So that's just silliness right there. And so what else have I had enough of? I've had enough of now I think I'm on like what 4 years maybe of studying Japanese, and I still haven't taken JLPT5, which is the first exam for Japanese. I still haven't taken it yet, and that's super frustrating to me. So if I continue on and keep asking myself, what else have I had enough of? What else I've had enough of? That's going to get me to all of the things that I'm going away from. Other questions that I could ask myself is like, what's not working? So what's not working is me doing my practice of Japanese at the very last thing of the evening. So that's super not working. So sometimes I do it and then I get frustrated and then I can't go to sleep. So that's not working. Another thing that's not working is I'm not speaking the Japanese out loud, which means I'm not practicing speaking, which then I don't get comfortable speaking. So that's not working either. And then what else is not working? So what's not working is for me to be able to do the practice, and I'm doing it on an app, and then I'm not writing anything down. So I'm not actually practicing my handwriting with regards to the Japanese hiragana or katakana. I am not practicing my kanji, so that's not working either. And what do you not want? I don't want this to continue. I don't want me to be always stuck as a sort of beginner of Japanese. I don't want to have a level of Japanese that just makes me sort of a little bit better than a tourist, but maybe not much better than a tourist. And how bad does it have to get? So this is the kind of thing is like, well, for me, I guess it could get worse. Like I wouldn't do it for a year or something like that and then go back to it. So that could get worse. But now, because I've told everybody about it and told everybody that I want to change it, it's really hard because now, how bad does it have to get? Well, me looking stupid in front of everybody else because I'm the person who tells everybody about change. And then if I don't do it myself, after I've told everybody, yeah, that looks pretty bad. So that's pretty bad. That's how bad it's going to get, right? So that will drive me away from failing about this change. Cool. All right, so that kind of gives you an understanding of what away from questions are all about. Now, when we look at the toward questions, we look at things like, what is your highest and best dream? So my highest and best dream is I walk into my JLPT5 exam, my first exam for the Japanese language, and I do so well that the person actually says to me in Japanese, and I understand that I shouldn't be taking this exam. I should be taking the 4 exam, which is the next highest level. And the highest dream is that I walk out of the testing center and my husband's there, and we go out and we celebrate with a big giant Japanese meal and lots of yummy sake. And I speak Japanese all night to all the staff. And then what is my highest best dream? And I'm already a head start on JLPT 5 or 4, and I have Japanese friends and I talk to them all the time, right? So these are kinds of things that would be in my highest best dream. And then what experience or value must you obtain? So my experience that I want to obtain, what's really truly important to me, the value that's truly important to me is to be able to go to Japan and speak fluently. Because ultimately I would really love a holiday home in Japan. And that's really what the goal is. At the end of the day, even if it's something that I'm sharing with somebody else, or maybe I'm just renting over the summer season, or maybe even the winter season to ski, I really want a place in Japan that I go to, and I really love the culture. I love the food. The food is really important. So that's the experience that I want to have, why must I obtain it? And so that's really important. Why must you obtain it? And so for me, it's one of those things that I really want to obtain this, because I really want to be able to go back to Japan when I feel like it, when I want to be able to live a sort of second life in Japan. And so it's a really, it's been on my dream list for a really long time. I really want to obtain it. And without the language, I don't think I'm going to be able to get there. So what do you want? Obviously, to pass my exam and to be able to get to a point where I can speak Japanese fluently. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm technically fluent. I might not be able to like go and do NLP courses or whatever in Japanese. That's not really what my goal is. My goal is a personal goal. I want to be able to go grocery shopping. I want to be able to buy things. I want to be able to converse with my neighbors, things like that. I want to be able to do and understand more cultural aspects of Japan and nuances that I don't have right now. And then what do you really want? So what I really, really, really want is, again, that place, right? That house, that thing that I have, that I can be there and I can feel like I know I have a white face, but I can fit in. So that's kind of like the big thing. All right, so that kind of gives you an example of the away froms and the towards. So your exercise, of course, is to go through this with a change that you want to have in your particular life. Now, when you listen to mine, you can hear that I have some aspects of away, and I have things that are driving me away, and I have aspects of towards. So does anybody want to guess which might be more important as a motivator to me? Am I trying to get away from pain, or am I trying to go toward this dream? Which might be, maybe if even slightly more important. Does anybody have a guess?
What? Life there integrated, where you're not just Angmo or foreigner.
Yes. Yep. I'm more integrated. Yep. Not just Angmo, right? And so that would be going toward that dream of that. But ultimately, if I'm not an Angmo, then I'm going away from being not an Angmo, right? So it's a little bit of a tricky thing. And so if I were to guess for myself, right now, the motivation is more away from, because right now my word is on the line. So if I don't do this, if I don't get this done, then I've told a bunch of people that I was going to do it and I didn't do it. And boy, oh boy, am I going to look stupid. So I'm an NLP trainer. Of course I have to do it. Right. So I have put myself on the line. And now it's away from, because I need to do this because I've done that. Now, it's interesting, though, because I knew that I needed to do that. And the reason I knew I needed to do that is because I had to create enough pain for me, because the toward, even though the toward is really nice and I really like it, and I really want to be able to do these things, and I have this great dream, it's not motivation enough for me to sit down every night to do it. But being really embarrassed towards my students and to people in the NLP community, yeah, well, that will get me every single day sitting down and doing my practice. So that's just something that I know about myself, right? And so this is the motivation for change, understanding the first thing that we have to do. Now, sometimes you need to look at this on like, what are the pros to staying the same? What are the cons to staying the same? So what do you gain by staying the same? And what do you lose by staying the same? And then what do you gain by changing? And what do you lose by changing? So that's another way that you can do this same kind of exercise. And the more detail that you have when you do this exercise, it can tell you something about you. So for example, if you answered the questions on the away from column and you answered all of those and you had robust answers and they were quite detailed and you answered the question over and over and over again. What have you had enough of? What's not working? You asked it to yourself several times. So you got lots of information. But then when you move to the toward side, it says, what's your highest and biggest dream? And you're kind of like, I don't know. So that kind of tells you already something about which one is probably more of a motivator for you. Okay. Now, that's interesting information to know. It doesn't stop you from needing to do that side, right? We still need the toward side. We still need to get information about that. We just probably know that maybe the away from might be a little bit more strong for you. Now, obviously, it could happen the other way where you have more information that you've listed for the toward as well. Now, here's one big giant warning for you. If you have just gone through this and you did it and you answered one question and you said, what have you had enough of? And you gave one answer and you moved on to the next question, you are doing it wrong. All right. So this is not a general big picture overview of change. This is never going to work with change. You must get into the deep, dark dirtiness of the change. So you need to ask the question over and over and over. What have I had enough of? What else have I had enough of? What else is not working? What else is not working? And what else is not working? So we need to ask the question several times. Now, I don't know if anybody knows Anthony Robbins, but Anthony Robbins has this little process that he does with people, and he asks the same question 50 times. And so he will ask you, what have you had enough of? And he'll ask it 50 times. And so he really wants you to understand the pain, like clearly, very articulative, understand the pain. And so when I'm working with somebody, I'm not necessarily asking them 100 times or 50 times. When I'm working with somebody, though, I am asking them multiple times, and I will continue to ask in multiple different ways until I exhaust the answer. And this is why when somebody works with a coach, that's why it helps, because obviously they have the ability to draw that out. And that's what the idea is. That's why I gave you so many questions, because I don't want you to answer just one question. I want you to answer many questions. So these are lots of different questions that I would ask to try to draw out all of the information from the person I would be working with. So this is why I gave you so many different questions. So again, if you're just doing the big picture overview, you're really not doing anything, okay? Which does tell you something, right? It tells you that maybe you're not ready for making any kind of change at this point in time in your life. Because if you're not really like, if you can't just like sit down and do an exercise like this, then maybe there's not really any point, like, because maybe there isn't any change coming to you. All right, so we're almost at the end of the presentation. So right now, I just need to ask anybody if you have any questions about this particular aspect, right? Because we're going to be talking about a couple more different mental programs. So do you have any questions about mental programs? And our first mental program that we've gone through with regards to change, which is motivation and the toward and away from. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, for my understanding, there's a various type of changes, but can I also say that with the various type of changes, they also in certain way are supporting each other. If let's say we just use one of the changes, let's say for example, revolution changes.
Yep.
it may not be sustainable because there's an evolution change to support. Can I say in this way, or?
So what you're saying when we look at the changes, this one.
Yeah.
So you're saying they support each other.
Yeah, from what I hear from you, from my understanding, I look in a way it's more like a supportive to each other. If let's say I want to do evolution change, example, I can do it. But if I do not have if I'm doing for consistent and long term, I may need a generative change to support. It means I'm looking as a layer to layer. It can be an individual layer, but for sustainable and long consistent result, I think I will see it in a way that the few layer like remedial, intermediate, all these layers need to be there. Am I right to say that? That's why I'm.
Yeah, and when we're looking at evolutionary change, obviously we would need a generative change to get to that point. So we would have to upgrade skill sets. We would have to have a corresponding upgrade in what we are doing and in learning something relatively new, which might be that spark for us to actually change who we are. Right. So by learning more new things, that might spark that evolutionary change. So correct in that way. And also in that incremental change may lead to generative change. Right.
Yeah. So
as we go through and like a constant never ending improvement sort of mindset, we might be at some point in time deciding to upgrade our skill set or our capabilities in a new way. And so when we do that, then we start working in the generative change area.
Sure. So, and the other part about the two changes, one is the motivation, the two type changes in the motivation to away and towards.
Yeah.
All right. Can I also say that because I know away means it's the pain that's not enough, towards is more like dream, if I put in a very general perspective.
Yeah.
But I think if I put in a way, generally, in most of the teaching, we are talking more towards motivation towards the dreams itself, but hardly more towards away. But what I'm trying to ask is that whether you choose on the pain way or the forward way, they both are a factor for us to achieve the next step of a goal if you want to, if I put in this way, correct to say that?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about it is no change occurs without a motivation to do so.
Yeah.
And so what we really want to understand is it doesn't matter to us. There's no right or wrong when it comes to, are you motivated more away from pain or towards something pleasurable or something that you want? So without placing judgment on yourself that one is better than the other, what we need to understand is which one do you do better? Which one actually motivates you more to get, to get you moving in the direction that you want to go? And so if that is, somebody lighting a fire behind you and pushing you forward, then that's what that is. But if it's also somebody putting something in front of you, or yourself putting something in front of you that you're running towards, then that also works, right? The important part is just to know which one is you, right? Is you to start. Because obviously, as we go through the change process, that program also might need to change. Right? So we need to update it as we go through the change process. So we're going to talk more about that when we look at the other little axes here of the change process. So we'll explore that. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about our toward or away from, the questions on there? I'll just hang out with the questions here. And if anybody wants to continue to write down questions that on the list here. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know. And you can always email me if you have any questions that I haven't addressed already. Or if something comes to you while you're sleeping at night or when you wake up tomorrow. The one thing, though, I do want to show you is what we will be exploring in the next couple of presentations. So first, next week's presentation, which is also this time next week. We are going to be looking at the rest of the mental programs that are involved in our change process. So we're going to look at creation, we're going to look at integration, we're going to look at decision. So these are all things that we need to explore, and in a particular order for us to be able to make those changes in a consistent way in our lives. So it's really very important for us to do this, because there's a lot of research about how people change, and a lot of modeling that's gone in to how people change and how people make changes permanent in their lives. So this isn't just some, made up kind of thing. There's a lot of research that's behind change process. So we want to make sure that we understand this kind of thing. So if anybody has ever heard of A Time for Change, there's a book on the research about change. So one of the is D. Clemente, for anybody who wants to look it up. So one of the things about that is what we look at from away from and toward in the motivation is a pre-contemplation stage of change. So that's what stage it is for those of you who know the system. Pre-contemplation stage, where we're looking at the pros and cons, i.e. going towards or away from the things about the change. So this is before any change actually starts to take place, right? Before any action occurs. So we haven't even decided at this point in time to change or not to change, right? So this is just the exploration. And it's really important to do this mental exploration, because those people who have changed permanently, who have made changes in their lives permanently, have done this work. All right. Cool. So I have, De Clemente. Yes. Sorry. What was the name? Yes. Amanda, thank you very much for the name. Amanda's very good at knowing. She's read my manual so many times. So anyway, so what we're going to do next time is we're going to explore what the rest of these motivational or the creation, integration, decision mind programs, and we're going to go through that so that everybody has an understanding of what order to do it in and what the rest of these little mental programs are all about. Cool. And then the week after that, we're going to talk about, let's put it into an actual game plan where we can actually achieve the change that we want to do. And how do we do that in a specific NLP kind of way? Okay, cool. Again, if anybody else has any questions, Kiara, I see your question. And so I will send you a WhatsApp message of the actual title. I have the book around here somewhere. But Kiara, it's also just FYI in your Master Prac book. It's the addiction circle, just as a reference. Yeah, Proshesh. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's the one. De Clemente, and yeah. And so, yeah, so perfect. She got it now. Okay, cool. But just by the way, Kiara, they don't do the NLP version, right? So this is the NLP part of what they're talking about in their book. So they don't mention any of this in their book, just FYI. So this is the NLP modeling of their theory. Cool. All right. So anyway, we'll see everybody next week. Please remember to register so you can get the link. It's going to be next Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah. Next Wednesday on the 19th at the same time, Singapore time. And so please go ahead and register, and then you'll get the link, and we'll give you the recording as well. Cool. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.